Boxing guards are bullshit. Hey guys, Coach Keith Keppner here. Boxing guards are kind of a load of crap. I'm going to talk about why. Now, why should you listen to me? I've been an amateur and professional boxing coach for about 15 years. I boxed in the United States and Mexico under my father, Doc Keppner, who's a professional boxing coach. And he was mentored and coached. He fought as a fighter and mentored as a coach under Chuck Bodak. And Bodak worked with over 50 world champions, and he was the Olympic coach for Muhammad Ali. All right, now let's talk about why boxing guards are BS. Right? It's something that I just hear people talk about online all the time. New people come in the gym talking about this. And I guess like so many things, when it becomes eventually the vocabulary, then it becomes more commonplace, and then it becomes actually just a standard thing people say, guards. They talk about different guards. But I want to break it down for you because I see so many beginners. And when I say beginners, I don't mean your first month of boxing. I don't mean your 6th month of boxing. I mean people that have only been boxing for a couple years, all right? Or maybe you've only done your first year for 10 years. That's the thing. Yeah, plenty of people. I've seen plenty of guys. There's this one gym that I would have my people spar, and do have my people spar from time to time, where so many of their guys will kick my guys' asses their first few months. But then eventually, with a little bit of time, we'll get the better of them. Because those guys, even though like I think of that like specific individuals, but so many of them, they've been boxing for 7 years. But my guy's been boxing now for 7 months, will start kicking their butt. And then they're still at that same level, that person, and they're still at the same level when my guy is now 2 years in the game, 3 years in the game. That person is still at the same level. And now that person that has been boxing for 7 years, who is still at like their first year level, then my next person I build up 7 months into boxing, a year into boxing, maybe has a little bit of trouble with him and then gets the better of him and then overcomes that level and builds. So again, you can do your first year for 7 years. You can do your first month for 7 months, all right? So it doesn't really matter how long you've done a thing. It matters how much you've progressed with that thing, all right? And also how much you thought about that thing too. All right, so now I know it's kind of a little bit of a feather ruffler for me to say boxing guards are bullshit, but they kind of are. And I want to talk to you why, because I see it hold people back. That's the reason. Not making this video to like just like piss people off or something like that. I'm doing it because I actually want to give and help because I see it holding people back, like I said. And so it's just, I can't see people get held back. And that's the coach part of me. That's the teacher part of me. So I want to shake people and help them see around the corner. If you've already been around the corner, you know what's around the corner. All right. Now, boxing guards, and what people call boxing guards, and now what's becoming more commonly used vernacular, including with people that do know boxing, it's just becoming more of a common phrase or phrases, are byproducts of two things. First, they're byproducts of specific defensive maneuvers, reactions to specific punches or combinations, or they're baits. That's what boxing guards are, is they are reactions to specific punches or punch combinations, and they are also feints or baits rather. So it's either one of those two things or a combination of the two. It's either one of those two things or a combination of the two. All right. Great example is, think about the high guard. People do like this. They lean their head in a little bit. They're baiting an uppercut. They're baiting a specific punch for them to counter specifically. But also, this is a position someone might fall into to block hooks. So it's one of those two things. That's what it is. And let's get into the details of it. Now, remember, it's not the goal, though. Boxing guard is not the goal. So often, it's like I saw this video talking about all these different boxing guards, and I went in the comments, and someone's like, yeah, I'm working on the blah, blah, blah guard. And I commented below, like, oh, cool. Like, how long you been boxing for? Oh, I've been boxing for like 6 months or something like that. It's like, you should not be working on, I didn't say this, but it's like, that's why I'm making this video. You should not be working on the blah, blah, blah guard. You should be working on your foundations. How to stand, how to move, how to throw punches properly, and how to defend properly. Boxing guard, assuming it's like for the purpose of guarding against punches versus the other way it's used, which is a bait, should be used to defend punches, and you're not going to do that with a static position. All right? There's no static position in boxing that you can go into to just defend punches. If that was the case, then guess what? Everybody would be doing it. Literally every single person. If you didn't do it, you wouldn't be successful. And boxing would be even more simpler than it already is. In its basics, it is simple, which is hit and don't be hit, or hit hard and be hard to hit. But when we actually get into it, there's many complexities. All right, but remember, so it's not the goal. Now, when you talk about going into boxing guards, before I start talking about the nuances of all these things and the actual details of what you need to focus on, how you need to focus on it, and all the specific ways that these boxing guards are just defensive reactions to punches, let's talk about how important it is to have a dynamic boxing style that you don't always just have the same look, right? Which is also what a guard is, right? So you got this look, you got this look, you got this look, all these different looks that you can give somebody that make them throw certain punches, baits, and different ways to launch your offense. There's this one person that I would spar. He's now a coach, but I would spar him a lot. He's around my size. And he and I would go neck and neck, and then I eventually start getting the better of him. Something he struggled with a lot was he had one position for defense and one position for offense. So again, if you're thinking too much of boxing guards, I'm afraid you might end up in that position where you're like, okay, boxing guard, now I'm going to punch. Boxing guard, now I'm going to punch. I'm punching now. Boxing guard, now I'm going to punch. And with this guy, it was like this. This was his defense. This was his offense. He's like this. Versus being able to blend it together, because you have to be able to be defensive and offensive at the same time. Anybody, even at a modest level, has to be able to do that. And if you don't, you're going to run into big freaking problems because you're just opening the door. It's like every time I would spar him, I knew if he went right here, there wasn't anything coming back. And if I knew he was here, I'd have to pay attention. But then I'd have to be offensive enough to get him to lock down. Once I got him locked down, boom. Now I could go to work. All right? So we have to blend this together. It's not a freaking video game. And I think maybe that's like someone commented on the first video I did about boxing guards a while back about maybe all this started with the Fight Night video games where it's a freaking video game controller. And video games are not real life. I'm sorry to break that to you guys, but video games are not real life. And so it's almost that idea of it's like, okay, I'm going to click this button and they're going to go like this. I'm going to click a button, they're going to go do that guard. Or I'm going to click a button, they're going to do this one. Click a button, 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 shoot a jab, boom. Right? That's not boxing, gang. That's not boxing. Specifically high-level boxing, but it's not even basic boxing. All right? Now, how these different things came about, I think, is from a lack of understanding also of stance. Because you have two basic large macro chunks of stance. You have a more old school boxing stance, and you have the more kind of newer school boxing stance. What do I mean by that? So the old school boxing stance, look at like Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis, Ike Williams, just name all of them. Emil Griffith, from the 50s, from the 30s, from the 40s, just name them all. The old school boxing stance was kind of like this. A little bit of that concave to the side, beautiful. They got the rear hand a little bit in front like this. They got the lead hand a little bit low like this. It's kind of like they're shooting a rifle. That's how Bodak taught stances. It's like you're shooting a rifle, but you come back here. So you're somewhere in this area. You might be down here, you might be up here, whatever. But it's this type of position. The elbows are in, and we're here. That's the old school boxing stance. Of course, a lot of those guys were right about here, but somewhere in this range is the old school boxing stance. Now, automatically from here, your lead hand is going to be a little lower. Why? Is it because it's a boxing guard? No. It's because you need to be able to see. If I'm like this, I can't see. I'm interfering with my vision, and now I can't see what the hell you're doing with your right hand. All right? I drop this down, though, I can see, and I can react. I'm a human being. I can do things. I can move. I'm not a statue or a video game character. From here, you can see, and it's how far to pick it up to stop it. That much. All right? Now, of course, there's levels to this, right? If I'm down here with my hand, it's going to be more path to cover to get it up here. So yeah, there's a case in point for that. But if I'm a little bit like that, that's not a whole new boxing guard as opposed to this, right? Or as opposed to this, all right? Now you got the more new school whatever, boxing, which is a little bit more of kind of like this position, let's say, or whatever range of this. And again, you got the long guard from here, but it's definitely more of a hands up position. We're more here because there's generally less emphasis on body punching nowadays, just in general. And that's partially because the amateur programs underemphasizing body punches. So that's where everything has moved more up here. And how can I just cover my face up? And maybe they're out here. And I'm not saying that's like, necessarily the worst thing ever or whatever. It's just different things. And like I talk about in every single video now, it feels like trade-offs. It's all just trade-offs. Okay. Now, also as well, by the way, with bigger gloves, it's easier to just kind of have the hands up and have hands in the way because it's more so, not completely, but it's more so like pillows versus those old school boxing gloves that were, remember, Sugar Ray Robinson, I think in some fights in 6-ounce gloves. Feel free to fact check me, but that's what I heard. At least like maybe a few of those fights were in very small gloves. At the very least, they were 8-ounce, and those were horsehair gloves, which were very bare minimum. All right. So you have to keep that in mind with the old school style and everything else. And I'm big on the old school. I really, I think that's the ethos of what boxing is. All right. So now let's talk about how this blends into different things that get confused with guards, right? So like I said earlier, a guard is either a defensive reaction specifically to specific punches, or it's the bait. So let's talk about the defensive reactions, all right? So again, if we think about it in a more old school boxing stance, right, which is also like new school too. I mean, people box different ways, all ways. The lead hand's a little bit lower, so automatically that makes what happen? You're going to use your shoulder to block punches. Is that a Philly shell now? No. It's just boxing. Okay, you're going to use the rear hand to catch. And you might raise this up to block. Now, from this position, just like this old school kind of boxing stance like this, we might maybe pop that up to stop a shot. We might do like that for a moment to stop a barrage of hooks, right? So we're just going hook, 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 hook. You might do this. You might do that. If you want to block it, that'd be not a bad idea. It creates openings for the uppercuts and things like that. So know that when you throw your punches, and know that for yourself defensively, but you're not a freaking robot and you're not a video game character. So you could go like this, and then you could catch a shot. You can side back up. You can move your head in between that, go back to here. Overhand right comes over the top like that. You can catch it. You can cross block it. Oh, you can do a cross guard. No, that's just a reaction. So you're here. You're doing your thing. Someone shoots a right hand over the top of your jab. Boom. Oh, now you change your guard to a cross guard. No, I reacted to one punch. All right. Now, sometimes, yes, 100%. You see people end up doing this because a few shots come. Or sometimes, guess what? If you have experience with boxing, you feel this stuff. It happens where a shot comes and you kind of like brace for it like this, and you end up in these positions. Now, of course, sometimes people will end up in little habitual positions where they're kind of like this for a little bit or whatever, that type of thing. Let's say I caught a shot here and a hook came real quick afterwards. I might pop that up a little bit, gets the spike of the elbow, but again, that's a reaction to a specific punch. I'm here, I catch the right hand, let's say, right? Cross catch, cross catch. No, I catch the right hand. This is a defensive maneuver. I'm here. The hook comes really snappy and around. I can spike it on my elbow just like that. Now, if I always do that, I open up my liver, and that's a bad time. But it's a thing you can do. It's a reaction to a punch. I can go like that and spike a right hand, all right? You could spike a jab like that. There's a lot of things you could do, all right? But these are all what? These are all defensive reactions to specific punches. We need to learn how to defensively react to specific punches. But then also we do need to learn how to react to combinations of punches. You need to know that, hey, look, like after the left hook, a lot of times the right hand comes. So that's where I typically don't teach people to go like this and open up with the block of the left hook, because that's going to open up for the right hand. I want them to be able to be like this or to be able to be like this. One of the two, so that the inevitable common follow-up is not available. All right? That's very, very, very important. Off of your catches, you need to be ready for someone to see you catching to stop the hook or to step out of the hook or to go under the hook. The left hook to be coming around, right? Very important stuff. If you got your lead hand a little bit lower, you need to be ready to pop it up for the overhand, or you need to be ready to step out or ready to put out the arm to play interference. But it's not a different boxing guard, right? So the cross guard thing, this. Yes, people go in this position. Yes, there's pro fighters that go in this position. But guess what? You see Evander Holyfield, let's say, right? Good example there. He trained as a pro by Georgie Benton, Georgie Benson's known for the Philly shell, right? That's what he does, right? The Philly shell, you know? And so he taught Evander the Philly shell, but then Evander would do this. Is it because Evander studied with Archie Moore and then Moore's student, Foreman, and they worked on the cross guard, whatever? No, it's because when you're like this in your standard boxing stance with your lead hand a little lower and your rear hand is oftentimes in front, here, that's going to happen sometimes. And shots come all for your head, you might do this. That's a fine way to sometimes block punches. And there's trade-offs, though. It opens up your body. And you also need to be able to throw off of it and think about it and be aware of it. Don't be locked of like, oh, this is defense. You need to learn how to launch your offense. And in any position, be ready to launch your offense. Know how to do that. And that's, again, why I don't like the idea of guards, because it's like I have a guard, and then oftentimes people will have people undo their guard and go back to their boxing stance to launch their attack. So like, here's my boxing stance. Here's my guard. Here's my boxing stance. Here's my guard. Right? No. You want to have your boxing stance, just like every single freaking fighter, and then they have defense that they do off of it. They have things that they do that react to certain punches that people throw. And that's it. Or sequences of punches. Because again, like I said, if someone's doing a bunch of hooks on you, it's probably going to be good to do that. If they do like a lot of 1-2s, you might end up in a position like that. But then if they drop that 2 for the body, you might not want to end up in a position like that. If they're jabbing for your body a lot of times, you want to get the elbows in the way, things like that. All right. So now let's go through a few. So I touched on the ear muff, which is what the high guard is, right? People used to call that ear muff, but this is the high guard. The high guard, again, it's a bait. It's a way to launch an attack, but it's also a way to defend people that are not educated with their punches. What I mean by not educated with the punches, they're not throwing combinations and sequences of combinations to create openings or exploit openings, right? Because with every single position you end up in, whether it's your standard boxing stance or you go to catch a punch, you just create an opening. You do this, you just create an opening 100%. You do this, you create a little bit of an opening. You do it really high, you create a big opening. You go like that, you create a big opening. You go like this, you create openings. And so therefore, you throw a punch, and you know that created an opening, you exploit the opening. You throw a punch, boom, that created an opening, boom. Boom, you throw up high, it creates openings down low. You throw down low, that creates openings up high. Right? Boxing is a complex thing, guys. It's basic, it's simple, but it's also complex. Now, the inverted Philly shell, right? Just to kind of go down the line of up the river of BS is so not that anyone calls anything the inverted Philly shell, at least I hope they don't. You have the Philly shell here, which is what? That's just old school boxing with a little bit drop of the hand. Like you're here boxing, I'm here boxing now. Philly shell, right? Oh, and then what? I saw this one video where they're talking about stances being different, where it's like you go from this position. Oh, here's what it was. This is a Philly shell, and this was something else. Can't remember what it was. But anyway, they're literally saying that this is a different guard than this guard. That's different guards. No, that's you're getting ready for certain shots. Or you're looking to mount maybe a fast right hand off of a counter, something like that. It's just different looks and different defensive positions that you might end up to. Okay, and that's it, guys. It's not all these different guards. You're going off a freaking stupid rabbit hole by thinking too much about this. But let's talk about the inverted, right? So I was reminded of this the other day, talking about Evander Holyfield, seeing a clip of Evander, and I remembered, oh yeah, because I watched a lot of Evander Holyfield when I boxed. And he was like this for a moment. So was that like a super secret thing that Georgie Benton taught him about the, instead of the Philly here and instead of the cross, you got the inverted, right? Yeah, see, guys, you guys are learning real boxing technique with this channel, right? You wouldn't hear this anywhere else. The inverted Philly shell, it's the secret to massive success with boxing. No, it's a bunch of crap. It's simply that he was looking for uppercuts and looking for right hands. He wanted to make sure he defended against the right hand and against the uppercuts. He was coming in, and he's wanted to be in that position. That's why you hit that. You're looking to defend against hooks. You're like this. You're looking to defend against the left hook. There's been plenty of times I told my guys on the inside, if we're getting hit by some uppercuts, it could be a couple different things. It could be because we're leaning in a little bit. Obviously, like moving the head and things like that could help nullify this. But also, if I need my guy to get someone in the corner, get him on the ropes, and really beat the hell out of them, and I need them on the inside, but the person they're boxing has good little uppercuts they're getting them with, put the hand right there. Now, is that a new guard? No, that's a defensive response to a certain situation. That is it. And so often people talk about these guards, but they're not considering that it's what specific combo are you stopping? What specific punches are you eliminating? That is what you have to focus on. And that is where it goes back to what? It goes back to just simply working defense, learning foundational defense. You cannot get around it. Do not act like you will be able to be good defensively at all by simply adopting different guards. Learn how to catch a jab. Learn how to block a punch properly. Learn how to roll a punch with your shoulder. Learn how to weave under punches, slip punches, etc., etc., etc. All right. Just to go down a rabbit hole of funny real quick. So, what about one that none of these people are talking about different guards, right? They're leaving a big thing out. You're talking about a world champion, a great fighter who beat, all-time great fighters. What about the Gene Fulmer? What about the Gene Fulmer? No one talks about that one, right? You see how all these guys are robbing you of your boxing technique and of that guard, right? They're all talking about all these different guards, but they're missing the Gene Fulmer guard. You're missing out. If you put the Gene Fulmer guard into your arsenal, man, then you'd be unstoppable. That's what's missing nowadays because people don't know. They don't know about the Gene Fulmer, right? Bunch of bullshit. All right? Gene Fulmer did this, but guess what? He also knew how to box too. He freaking knew how to box too. He really did. He fell into this position, and he did his thing, and he made it work. Now, do not come in the gym and practice that. Don't come in and practice that. Now, what is this, though? He's stopping, honestly, almost every headshot for his jaw. That's great. He's looking to set up his big club right hand, all right? But there's a lot. It's all trade-offs, right? There's benefits and there's trade-offs. There's cost and reward to this. But where does that come from? That comes from you can spike. You can go like this and spike a right hand and stuff like that. Your shots come and you could go like that for a moment to stop some shots. You're in a position, you're low, you're here, but learn how to do that as opposed to all these like freaking just dumb guards, all right? I'm saying guards way too much. But the last one, guys, I'll leave you with, that again is the last thing that no one talks about, that no one knows about with guards, right? It's, man, here's the guard to explode all guards. You have the no guard, right? It's called the Ali, right? What about that guard? Why don't any of these people talk about the Ali guard or the no guard, right? Where your hands are down, right? What about that guard, right? And what it does for you as a boxer, all right? Freaking fly right here. So anyway, long ranting video. Hope you enjoyed it. Got a little bit worked up, but I'm worked up because I'm passionate about people learning boxing and learning boxing in an optimal way. Does that mean you have to learn boxing like exactly the way I teach it? No. Am I like the end all be all with boxing? Hell no. All right. But from my experience with boxing, and then from the time I mentored under my father, who had multiple decades in boxing, and the time he worked with Chuck Bodak, who had, again, multiple decades in boxing, going back from the 20s, when Chuck would fight, or back in the teens, really in the 20s, where Chuck would fight, they didn't even have mouthpieces. They would bite down on gauze. All right. That's a different era and time. And he was on the amateur circuit with Tony Zale. And you actually made more money as an amateur than as a pro, because you would actually, when you would win amateur fights, you would get the medals, and the medals were actually made of real precious metals. And you could, sell that, or you get like a watch and things like that. And you can sell that or trade that for stuff. Wasn't little plastic things you get nowadays. So I'm passionate, though, because I know I see so many people waste so much time with a bunch of junk. There's a lot of junk out there. Go to the foundations and the fundamentals. Learn basic stance, learn basic punches, and learn how to defend basic punches. We get caught up as people in all these different little tricks and the new thing. And it's the way people that produce content. I produce content, but it's the way that people go out and create excitement with content. The blah, blah, blah guard, the blah, blah, blah thing, the thing that you're missing, the no guard, the Gene Fulmer. If I was one of those bullshit people, that's what I would be doing. I'd be doing videos about the no guard, or the secret Fulmer guard, or the inverted Philly. All right. Anyway, guys, if you want to work with me, I love to work with you. I work with people, now around the world because of online. With my custom elite program, I work with people from complete beginners who haven't even sparred yet to people that are, nationally ranked in their country. And love to help you get to the next level. And you and I work together. Also, check out the Patreon page because there's the Champion Mindset program, which is very important because you can have all the foundations, but be missing this thing up here, and it really doesn't matter. There's a lot of other great free resources on there as well, guys. So check it out. Great community. I'm doing my best to build, and that you guys watching are a part of, and I appreciate it. And have a great day, and check out the next video.